All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to model the hand. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a poly cylinder, scale down, and I'm going to start with the fingers first. And again, attribute editor, change it to 8. And one of the things you could also do in this case is you could do a round cat, click that little checkbox, and then add, like, I don't know, in this case I'm going to do 3. Um, and then from here, I only need it for the top part of the finger, so I'm going to delete those faces here, and then I'm going to just slide it sort of into place. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just build the hand first without like worrying too much about this being all angled and whatnot, because then it just starts to get sort of complicated. For me, it's just easier to build like so. I'm going to build it vertically, and then I'm going to rotate it into place. So the first things first is, and if it could be more beneficial if you're going to follow this reference, maybe it might be easier for if you're just learning to model it this way. So let's just stick with that. Actually, I'm going to change my mind on that and go this way. And I'm going to go ahead. It's already in place here. Let's expand that a little bit. And I have a slightly blurry type of viewport here, but that's about right. And then what I'm going to do is, should be a little bit larger. I'm going to, isolate just my viewport and my finger for the time being, and I'm going to go to edge mode. And in this case, I'm going to do an extrude, and I'm going to extrude out, and I'm going to extrude. And I'm going to extrude again. And like so. Take this one, and I'm going to scale that out slightly, and something like that. All right. So then the next thing is where are the knuckles? And in this case, I'm going to probably have to eyeball it. And from here, I'm going to, well, I'm actually going to be following this reference here. And something like that. I'm going to get to that next. I think how I'm going to model it will be fine. I'm going to do 1, and this actually gives me a slightly better idea of where the knuckles are. So I'm going to switch to my edge mode. This is approximately here, and this one's actually about right. So I was just very slightly off with that. And now I'm going to make sure I'm matching this up. And there we go. And soften edge, and we're good. So now I've built one of the fingers, okay? Only one. But what's really neat about this is, in this case, for this one purpose, I'm going to select this edge all the way at the top, and I'm going to actually fill hole. And then I'm going to go to face. I'm going to select the one face, and I'm going to do a poke face. And I'm doing this simply for one reason, and that is so I can set my pivot point to be exactly at that point, so it'll scale from this pivot point or anchor point exactly how I want it to. So I'm going to hold D and V, and I'm going to snap this to that point. And now I can go ahead and delete these. These were just there to make an easy reference, basically, for my pivot point. Okay, so from this point, I modeled this one off the middle finger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command D. I'm going to drag this slightly over, and I'm going to scale slightly down because the index is slightly shorter than that. And I'm going to take this one, I'm going to hit Command D and slide it over, and I'm going to scale slightly down, and something like that. And then I'm going to Command D one more time, and Command D is duplicate, and I'm going to take this one and scale it even further down because this will be my pinky finger. And now you'll see I've got my 4 fingers that I need, and what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to build his thumb, and I'm going to take the middle finger I'm going to start with, because the thumb is actually pretty large finger itself, and I'm going to move it and rotate into place as I need it. And in this case I can actually switch to vertex mode and select all the vertices I need to sort of match this reference and thicken it up as needed. And then just make sure you're following all of your references. Okay. And something like that looks about right. So there's the thumb. It might be even that might have been too much. Okay. So okay, something like that. All right, so here's the hard part about this, and what the really most difficult part is of this whole process is to actually get this to how can I say, combine right, but with the topology being pretty good. One of the things I'm gonna notice right away is that I want to have this reference over here because I'm following it, this arm over here. So what I'm going to do is, as we just did with the pivot point, putting it at that point, I'm going to hold D, and this time I'm going to hold X. Hold D and X. And that's not working. Let me put on my grid D and X, and that'll snap it directly to the center point. And now I'm going to do a modify freeze transformations, and now I'm going to hit Command D, and I'm going to scale -1 on the x-axis, so that can give me my reference on both sides, and that will help me a little bit get into the correct size of this character here. And now I'm going to take a look here and match these. This probably should just go like so, and actually like so, and make sure you're always trying to match your reference, and that should do it. Okay, so now that I've got that far, I've got the arm and I've got the hand started. I've got the fingers there, but now from this point what I need to do is I need to combine all of these objects. And what I'm going to do next, actually, is I'm going to go to edge mode because these are all combined, and I'm going to start to combine them using the bridge tool and divisions 0, and I'm going to do this again, divisions 0, and again, and one more time going from here. And to here. And I'm going to do one here because I'm probably going to need it. Yeah. Okay. So now I've got them all actually physically combined using topology. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go from this edge over here, and I'm going to select all these edges wrapping around. And I'm going to go in here and just make sure these are merged. Oh, don't want that. That can happen sometimes when you're using the bridge tool, so just go ahead and individually merge these just in case you're getting something weird happening. Okay, go from here to here to here to here, and I'm just selecting these edge loops directly around this character here on these fingers. I'm selecting all the edges except these around the fingers themselves. And from here I'm going to extrude up, and I'll scale in a little bit. Okay. And then from here I'm going to merge, and this is where it gets tricky. Merge vertice to center. Okay, there's that one. So again, I'm going to do this again the same exact way, and I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to extrude up, and I'm going to scale out a little bit and bring in and out, and there we go. Now I'm going to merge these. Okay. And again, same thing. Extrude, go up, scale out as needed and move around and stuff, and okay, there's that one. And now we'll do this one. And I'm going to need to fix a lot of this, and I'm going to get around to that in just a moment. And again, okay, extrude upwards, and from here merge these verts, and now I've got my basic hand pretty much complete, and I'm going to extrude one more time and just sort of scale into place. Now one thing you might be asking yourself if you've gotten that far is if I turn on shading wireframe on shaded, you'll notice I have so much more topology and then the other arm here. And that's where that whole subdivide thing comes into play, where I was talking about it around the boot area when I was doing this area, and most specifically where those two triangles meet. And we're going to get into that in just a second. And before I go ahead and do that, I want to make sure that I start to fix this a little bit because it's looking a little wonky, really, really weird and jagged edges kind of thing. And to fix it, I'm going to go through and select a large group of vertices. So this will do for now. Okay, something like that. And I'm going to hold shift and right click and go average verts. And I'm going to do it a couple times. And then I'm going to sort of, that's good. And you'll see what happens there. And I'll soften edge. So now I've got that looking much smoother there. And I'm going to do the same thing out here. And you know what? Almost forgot these. Okay, there we go. And now from here, I'm gonna select the entire edge loop across the top, scale, and move, and there we go. And now in this viewport, I'm going to see that I'm going to need to add a little bit more bulkiness to this guy's hand, in which case I can select these here, and this is probably where I'll start to just pull these outwards. Okay, go ahead and I'm going to pull those outwards a little bit. Give it a little bit more depth, girth in the hand, and that should just about do it. Go this way with this one and slightly that way. Okay, and now I've got a decent enough hand, and here I'll just average verts a couple times. And there we go. Alright, so there's my hand. It's good enough for what I need it for. This should be probably a little bit thicker on all of these. And one at a time. These might need to be a little bit too, because our knuckles actually expand out slightly. Well, I guess it really also depends on the build of your person or character's hand. But up to here, what I want to do is, so far so good. This is exactly what I'm going for. And I want to see if I can get rid of a couple of these edges, and I will be able to. And how I'm going to do that is going to be with triangles, because I'm going to need, probably a strong chance I'm going to need less. And in order to do that, I'm just going to simply start to do this. And I'm going to do this at the knuckles. And I'm going to do this on each one to save a little bit of topology. And I'll show you exactly how in a second. All right. And one more. And okay. So how I do this is I'm going to now delete that edge, delete this edge, and you'll see I'm maintaining all those quads. But I'm saving myself a ton of geometry, and that is starting to work a little bit better. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Now I know I like to, I had mentioned that I like to keep as many quads as possible, but in this particular case, to line this geometry up, it's just going to be far too much geometry. Even if I subdivided, I think the hand would still have too many. So I want to make sure that I lower this enough to a point where and what I'm doing is I'm selecting, double clicking on an edge loop, and I'm holding Control and Delete. And that one I'm actually going to keep, so I can get rid of that one. Okay, so still still needs a little bit. So now one more thing I want to do before I push forward in connecting the hand is I want to, and I'm going to modify center pivot. I want to make sure that here we go. And this is exact problem I had with doing it this way, this model particularly. Is that you'll see here that it's like really kind of funky getting into this hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this edge loop that I thought I might have needed, but not. All right, so one last thing is I'm going to begin to add a little bit more detail into this hand, or onto this arm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel some edges, and I'm going to do that just so when I run a smooth on it, bevel edge, segments 2, okay. That's exactly what I wanted. And if I hit 3, you'll notice I get a slightly harder shading, wireframe unshaded edge versus when I didn't have it. And now I'm going to run a smooth. I'm going to click my object, hold shift, hold right click, and go to smooth. And now from here, turn wireframe on shading back, might be able to begin. And I'm always going to be able to add more topology in if I needed, but up to this point, it's more so important that okay, and I'm snapping these into place. Okay, so I can run, I did a little bit too many here, so I can run through, add a new one, and snap my vert. Okay, So then here, not going to need that one. Go in here, snap my vert, delete that one. Okay, and now I'm actually going to need this vertex to go here. And then I can run an edge loop up the wrist here, no problem. And I could have done this just before, but I don't know why. I was just thinking this would probably be faster, and it turns out I might have been wrong, but that's okay. This way, it's still an effective way. I know exactly where I'm going to need my edge loops, and you'll see exactly how I'm going about doing that. Okay, and all right, so I'm going to need take this one here, that one there, that one here, and then now I was just sliding some vertices around or edges around, so you could see. There we go. Vertex, snap here, go to the edge, Control Delete. All right, and we're good. Now I've got all the geometry that I need to combine this hand to my arm. And now what I'm going to do is save. And now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to combine them. And now I'm going to go to Vertex, and I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to go Merge Vertices and Merge Vertices. And now there is my hand. And it matches my reference pretty closely. So that's kind of neat. I'm going to go on here and scale this down slightly, and this one too, and that one. All right. So I've got now my arm, add selected object, and what I can do from here is I can delete this one, and I can duplicate it, Command D, and scale -1, and now I've got both my hands there. Again, I'm going to need to get this body up to that point too. But for now, this is good, and I've got a really great start on my main character here. So the arms are basically done. They're symmetrical on both sides. Wireframe unshaded. And let's go ahead here. So yeah, it's looking. I could probably use a little touch up in here. I don't know. Something like that. And I want both of them to be symmetrical for now, so if I was to do one thing, I want to make sure that I just do that and update the new arm. So here, that's where I'm at for the time being. I'll continue pushing forward with this guy, Cyclops. And the next thing we'll do is I'll even go ahead and check here. I'm going to display grid. And I'll go ahead and scale this -1. Oh, Command D, scale -1. And now I've got the start of my character's hands and feet. One thing you can do as well is we can run another cleanup pass on here in detail to bevel some edges. Okay. another one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bevel these. That's good. Soften edge, and then from here, I'm actually going to run another smooth. Whoa. What happened there? I'm not sure. All right. Well, you know what? I won't bother with the smooth for now. I'll probably need to do some other things. I'm going to delete that one anyway because some weird funky stuff happened, and I'll just go ahead and do that again. All right. So I'll do another pass on running that smooth again, and then I'll get into connecting everything. So that's that on creating the hands and the arms. Thanks for watching.